Today we're exploring the top 10 worst plane takeoff fails, from deadly accidents to catastrophic events both on the runway and in the air. These heart-stopping moments remind us of the fragility of life. Join us as we delve into these harrowing stories of survival and tragedy. American Airlines Flight 191. American Airlines Flight 191 was a routine domestic flight from Chicago's O'Hare International Airport to Los Angeles International Airport. However, tragedy struck on May 25, 1979, when the McDonnell Douglas DC-10's left engine detached from the wing during takeoff from runway 32R. This catastrophic event led to the loss of control of the aircraft, which crashed less than a mile from the end of the runway. The crash resulted in the tragic deaths of all 258 passengers and 13 crew members on board, as well as 2 individuals on the ground, with a total of 273 fatalities. This remains the deadliest aviation accident in United States history. An investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board revealed that as the aircraft began its takeoff rotation, the left engine separated from the wing, landing on the runway. This separation caused the severance of hydraulic lines that controlled the wing's leading edge slats and damaged a section of the left wing's leading edge. As a result, the aerodynamic forces acting on the wing led to the uncommanded retraction of the outboard slats. The damaged left wing without an engine generated significantly less lift than the right wing, which still had its slats deployed and engine providing full takeoff thrust. This imbalance caused the aircraft to roll abruptly to the left, partially inverting to a bank angle of 112 degrees before crashing in an open field near the runway's end. The engine separation was attributed to improper maintenance procedures at American Airlines, which damaged the pylon structure holding the engine to the wing. The flight crew, consisting of Captain Walter H. Lux, First Officer James Dillard, and Flight Engineer Alfred Yudovich, were highly experienced. Captain Lux, with around 22,000 flying hours, had been flying the DC-10 for 8 years since its introduction. First Officer Dillard had 9,275 hours of flight experience, while Flight Engineer Yudovich had 15,000 hours. Collectively, they had 1,830 hours of flying experience in the DC-10. As the aircraft climbed to about 325 feet above ground level, a white mist trail of fuel and hydraulic fluid was visible from the left wing. The first officer followed the flight director and raised the nose to 14 degrees, reducing the airspeed from 165 knots to the takeoff safety airspeed of 153 knots, the speed at which the aircraft could safely climb after an engine failure. The crash site is located northwest of the intersection of Tohi Avenue and Mount Prospect Road on the border of Des Plaines and Mount Prospect, Illinois. In addition to the 271 people on board, 2 employees at a nearby repair garage were killed, and 2 more were severely burned. Tenerife Airport Disaster. The Tenerife Airport disaster took place on March 27, 1977 at Los Rodeos Airport in the Canary Islands, Spain. It involved a collision between 2 Boeing 747 passenger jets, KLM Flight 4805 and Pan Am Flight 1736, resulting in the deaths of 583 people, making it the deadliest accident in aviation history. The collision occurred as KLM Flight 4805 began its takeoff run in dense fog while Pan Am Flight 1736 was still on the runway. The impact and subsequent fire led to the deaths of all on board KLM Flight 4805 and most of the occupants of Pan Am Flight 1736, with only 61 survivors from the front section of the Pan Am aircraft. The airport was congested due to a bomb explosion by the Canary Islands Independence Movement at Gran Canaria Airport, which forced many flights to be delivered to Los Rodeos. The airport had only 1 runway and 1 major taxiway, which became blocked by parked airplanes, forcing departing aircraft to taxi on the runway instead. Investigations revealed that the primary cause of the accident was the KLM captain's decision to take off in the mistaken belief that the takeoff clearance had been issued. Dutch investigators also noted a mutual misunderstanding in radio communications between the KLM crew and air traffic control. Ultimately, KLM admitted responsibility for the accident and agreed to compensate the victims' families. Air France Flight 358. Air France Flight 358, a regularly scheduled international flight from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, France to Toronto Pearson International Airport in Canada, ended in a runway overrun and crash into Etobicoke Creek on August 2, 2005. Despite the Airbus A340-313E destruction, all 309 passengers and crew survived, although 12 individuals sustained serious injuries. The incident underscored the crucial role of well-trained flight attendants during emergencies. Inclement weather led to the cancellation of 540 flights at Pearson, with many aircraft diverted to other Canadian airports. The crash of Flight 358 was the largest crisis at Pearson since its involvement in Operation Yellow Ribbon. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada (TSB) investigated the accident, attributing it to bad weather conditions and poor landing decisions by the flight crew. Factors included poor visibility, a short runway, the aircraft's late touchdown, and delayed deployment of thrust reversers. The accident occurred at 16:02 Eastern Daylight Time when Flight 358 overshot runway 24 left and came to rest in a ravine outside the airport perimeter. Despite 12 major injuries and the aircraft's destruction in a post-crash fire, there were no fatalities. Emergency response teams arrived within a minute of the crash alarm, and the aircraft was evacuated within the required 90-second time frame, thanks to the swift actions of the flight attendants. Delta Airlines Flight 1086. Delta Airlines Flight 1086 was a scheduled domestic passenger flight between Atlanta and New York's LaGuardia Airport on March 5, 2015. The McDonnell Douglas MD-88 aircraft veered off the runway shortly after landing at LaGuardia Airport in New York City. The plane ran up the seawall berm, struck the perimeter fence, and slid along it for approximately 940 feet before coming to rest with the nose hanging over the berm above Flushing Bay. Despite the serious damage to the aircraft, there were no fatalities, but 29 people suffered minor injuries. The National Transportation Safety Board (NTSB) found that the probable cause of the accident was the pilot's inability to maintain directional control of the airplane due to his application of excessive reverse thrust, which degraded the effectiveness of the rudder in controlling the airplane's heading. Flight 1086 took off from Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport at 8:45 a.m. and was scheduled to land at LaGuardia Airport at 10:48 a.m. The weather at LaGuardia was snowy and foggy, with the captain warning passengers of potential delays due to weather problems. Another Delta Airlines MD-88 had landed on runway 13 just before Flight 1086 and reported good braking action. During the approach, the aircraft was aligned with the runway centerline and the autopilot remained engaged until about 230 feet above ground level. The aircraft touched down at 11:02 a.m., veered off the left side of the runway shortly after, and skidded across the snowy airfield until it struck the perimeter fence. The left wing sustained major damage and the aircraft was declared a hull loss. The crew managed the complete evacuation after more than 17 minutes with the aircraft leaking fuel. 29 passengers suffered minor injuries and all injured passengers were sent to the hospital but were discharged 2 days later. British Airways Flight 38. British Airways Flight 38 was a scheduled international passenger flight from Beijing Capital International Airport in Beijing, China to London Heathrow Airport in London, United Kingdom. On the 17th of January 2008, the Boeing 777-200ER aircraft operating the flight crashed just short of the runway while landing at Heathrow. Despite the crash, there were no fatalities fatalities. Of the 152 people on board, 47 sustained injuries, with one being serious. This incident marked the first time in the Boeing 777's history that an aircraft of this type was declared a hull loss and subsequently written off. The Air Accidents Investigation Branch conducted an investigation into the accident, with the final report issued in 2010. The cause of the accident was attributed to ice crystals in the jet fuel, which clogged the fuel/oil heat exchanger of each engine. This restricted fuel flow to the engines during the final approach to Heathrow, leading to the crash. Southwest Airlines Flight 1248. Southwest Airlines Flight 1248 was a scheduled passenger flight from Baltimore, Maryland to Chicago, Illinois, continuing on to Salt Lake City, Utah, and then to Las Vegas, Nevada. On December 8, 2005, the airplane slid off a runway at Chicago Midway while landing in a snowstorm and crashed into automobile traffic, resulting in the death of a 6-year-old boy. The aircraft involved was a 1-year-old Boeing 737-700 with tail number N471WN, delivered to Southwest in July 2004. It was powered by two CFM International CFM56 7B24 turbofan engines. The flight crew consisted of Captain Bruce Sutherland, 59 years old, who had 15,000 flight hours, including 4,500 hours on the Boeing 737, and First Officer Stephen Oliver, 34 years old, with 8,500 flight hours, including 2,000 on the Boeing 737. Neither pilot had been involved in any accident or incident before Flight 1248. The accident occurred in a snowstorm with reduced visibility. The pilot attempted a landing on a runway with nearly 8 inches of snow on the ground. The aircraft skidded during landing and the nose gear collapsed. The plane came to rest on Central Avenue, hitting at least 3 cars, resulting in the death of the 6-year-old boy and injuries to several others. Air Florida Flight 90. Air Florida Flight 90 was a scheduled domestic passenger flight operated by Air Florida from Washington National Airport to Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, with an intermediate stopover at Tampa International Airport. On January 13, 1982, the Boeing 737-222 registered as N62AF crashed into the 14th Street Bridge over the Potomac River just after takeoff from Washington National Airport. The aircraft struck the bridge, which carries Interstate 395 between Washington, D.C. and Arlington County, Virginia, hitting 7 occupied vehicles and destroying 97 feet of guardrail before plunging into the Potomac River. The plane was carrying 74 passengers and 5 crew members. Only 4 passengers and 1 crew member survived the crash. Another passenger, Arlen D. Williams Jr., assisted in the rescue of survivors but drowned before he could be rescued, and 4 motorists on the bridge were killed. The National Transportation Safety Board (NTSB) determined that the accident was caused by pilot error. The pilots failed to switch on the engine's internal ice protection systems, used reverse thrust in a snowstorm prior to takeoff, tried to use the jet exhaust of a plane in front of them to melt their ice, and failed to abandon the takeoff even after detecting a power problem while taxiing and having ice and snow built up on the wings. Lot Polish Airlines Flight 16. Lot Polish Airlines Flight 16 was a Boeing 767 passenger jet on a scheduled service from Newark, United States to Warsaw, Poland, that on the 1st of November 2011 made a successful gear-up emergency landing at Warsaw Chopin Airport after its landing gear failed to extend. All 231 aboard survived without serious injuries. A leak in one of the aircraft's hydraulic systems occurred shortly after takeoff, resulting in the loss of all of the hydraulic fluid supplying the primary landing gear system. Within 30 minutes of departing from Newark, the crew received a warning that the center hydraulic system had malfunctioned. The decision was made to continue to Warsaw in order to use up the heavy load of fuel needed for the transatlantic flight. The aircraft proceeded to approach as normal, but aborted when the landing gear failed to deploy. deploy. The crew informed Warsaw Air Traffic Control that they were unable to lower the landing gear due to a hydraulic system failure. The captain Tadeusz Rona and the first officer Jerzy Suzurek, both experienced pilots, successfully landed the aircraft gear up on runway 33 at Warsaw Shopping Airport at 14:40 Central Europe time with no injuries to anyone on board. The aircraft sustained substantial damage resulting in a hull loss. Lion Air Flight 610. Lion Air Flight 610 was a scheduled domestic passenger flight from Soekarno-Hatta International Airport, Tangerang to Dipati Amir Airport, Pangkal Pinang in Indonesia on 29th of October 2018. The Boeing 737 MAX operating the route crashed into the Java Sea 13 minutes after takeoff, killing all 189 people on board. It was the first major accident and hull loss of a 737 MAX, a then recently introduced aircraft, and the highest death toll of any accident or incident involving a 737 series aircraft. Investigations revealed that a new software function in the flight control system, the maneuvering characteristics augmentation system, forced the airplane to nose down repeatedly. This function had been initially omitted by Boeing from airplane documentation for aircrews, so the Lion Air pilots were unaware of it and its potential effects. Scandinavian Airlines System Flight 751. Scandinavian Airlines System Flight 751 was a scheduled passenger flight from Stockholm, Sweden to Warsaw, Poland via Copenhagen, Denmark. On 27th of December 1991, the McDonnell Douglas MD-81 operating the flight experienced a severe incident that led to an emergency landing in a field near Gottrora, Sweden. Despite both engines failing due to ice ingestion shortly after takeoff, all 129 passengers and crew survived. The incident was caused by clear ice formation on the wings during overnight parking in cold temperatures. The ice was not detected before takeoff despite de-icing procedures. As the aircraft became airborne, pieces of ice broke off and damaged both engines, leading to their failure. The pilots managed to glide the aircraft to a field for an emergency landing, during which the aircraft sustained significant damage. In conclusion, aviation history is full with remarkable stories of survival, cleverness, and lessons learned. From the heroic actions of pilots during emergencies to the technological advancements that have made air travel safer, each incident teaches us valuable lessons about safety, readiness, and the resilience of the human spirit. We hope you found this journey through aviation history both informative and engaging. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.